As far as I can go, rest assured the wind will lead me far from home. Let's sail this world, rest assured the wind will lead me far from home. Let's sail this world, the water beneath me is so clean, is so me, is so
Testing 1 2.
splashing over
Hey bud,
me. Let's sail
you about ready to do this?
this world, the
I don't see you.
water beneath me
Just
is
wake
so
up.
clean, is so me, it's so pristine, splashing over me.
Can you hear me? Do I need to turn my gain up a little bit? Is that better? Alright, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Am I coming in garbled and stupid?
As far as I can
What do you think about escalations there in Jordan today? Well, we've been doing a poor job of it so far. We've been looking pretty weak. Now, all of a sudden, we're there. Yeah, let's do that. New Hampshire was a nothing. But I think we can throw a little bit into. Let's talk a little bit about Nevada. I don't know if you saw his last speech in Nevada. I mean, he had lines. He filled up the Thomas Mack Center. All right, man.
I'm treading slowly on this darkened road, just waiting on the sun to rise. I'm treading slowly on this darkened road, just waiting for another try. Open up the sky so I can breathe again. Open up my eyes so I can see again. 'Cause ever since you left, it's never been the same. Through the smoke I see you wandering like I've never seen you before, looking lost like a child who's never ever been here before. Through the smoke I know you're miles away from Chicago to LA. I'd go anywhere for you. Smoke could disappear in the night. seeing outside. Open up the sky so I can breathe again. Open up my eyes so I can see again. 'Cause ever since you left, it's never been the same. Through the smoke I see you wandering like I've never seen you before. Looking lost like a child who's never ever been here before. Through the smoke I know you're miles away from Chicago to LA. I'd go anywhere for you. Smoky disappear in the night.
Did you send me the link? Hold on. Did you ever upload this to YouTube?
Like I've never seen you before. Looking
Couldn't
lost
find
like
it.
a child who's never ever been here before. Through the smoke I know you're miles away from Chicago to LA. I'd go anywhere.
Your channel had nothing but gaming stuff on there.
In the night.
Well, you need to send me that channel too.
I'll ask you a question. The 60s and 70s were such a great time to watch.
Somehow it went to my cloud. Hold on a second, we'll open up here. What's your channel for YouTube then? It's not Thanksgiving. Hold on, let me get Twitch. Jesus fucking Christ. No. You told me to get. Dang it. You're on fucking Twitch. Nothing. I'll do it later.
Here comes a new challenger.
Heavy challenge. Are you prepared to meet your fate? Beware, as what lies ahead of you will either be your destiny or your defeat.
No. Trying to get into Twitch. It won't let me get into Twitch.
you had to pick your favorite band from the
You go on Twitch right now to Think Gibbon. Think Gibbon right now. We're live and on the air going to talk about current events and other items. Okay, ready to go? All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're on. All right, welcome. Hey, how's it going out there?
Can you hear me now? Haha, there we go. I was muted. We're not muted anymore though. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Welcome in. How we doing? Episode 2 of our podcast with me and my dad. Hope everybody's doing okay. Everybody had a good week. Move that over here. Don't need to see that. The Willful podcast, episode 2, folks. I mean, we can briefly touch on it. We were going to talk originally uh, about New Hampshire, but lots happened in the last couple of days that's kind of pushed that in the background. Um, I mean, head to head, Trump and Haley. I still think he's got a lot to worry about with only 54% of the vote. It's a low number for someone who's supposed to be in charge of the party, but you know, it is what it is. New Hampshire's a weird.
Wait a minute, Tom. Wait a minute, Will.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
wait.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Almost half of
your
Haley's
gain down.
votes came
Turn
from
your gain down.
Democrats.
Turn your gain down a little bit.
Half of Haley's votes came from Democrats.
Well, that's what I was gonna
they
say.
even admitted.
That's what I was gonna say. Is New Hampshire's just a weird state that way, where you can change your party affiliation the same day of the vote. So it's like, I mean, you can't really take much out of New Hampshire. I think what you're gonna really, I don't think Haley's on. I don't think Haley's on Nevada. I don't think she's on that ballot. I think
She pulled out of it. I think she was polling like 10. I think she pulled out of it.
I think we're gonna see more. We're gonna know more on South Carolina, but her run was seen in the beginning as something to, like, I guess, like, audition for vice president. She was not seen as a serious person to run, but the last couple of days she's really, since New Hampshire, Trump's for some reason feels threatened by anybody who goes against him, to the point of just dumping insults onto them, and that seems to have really, like, solidified her just keeping in the race. I think if Trump wouldn't have said what he said about her, she probably maybe drops out before South Carolina and gives him the nomination, but she might ride this as far as she can until her donors dry up.
Well, I gotta say one thing. So politics is dirty, right? I mean, let's just face it. Politics is dirty. I mean, it's like going out to and jumping into one of those trash containers in the back of some dark alley somewhere. That's politics in a nutshell. So if you say,
Hold
no,
on.
I mean, think about this.
Hold on. Can you
What?
like go like 3 inches back from your mic? And now
All
talk.
right, I'm here.
That's better.
Okay. So politics is dirty, like I was saying. It's like going out in some back alley and jumping in a trash can and just trying to swim. Now, he talked bad about Vivek. He talked bad about DeSantis. And both of them, once they quit, they turned towards Trump. So, I mean, it's just politics, man. The only one who's really taken an ill feeling towards Trump, I think that you can say, is the ex-governor from New Jersey. I mean, yeah, there's people that hate him, but Christie, he hates him worse.
Well, I mean, DeSantis made the promise to back the presumptive nominee before he even started his campaign. So that's not something like I don't think that's not something of DeSantis kowtowing to Trump in that way, because if you watched him post him dropping out of the election, like he hasn't gone to any events with Trump like Vivek did, and he's actually um, kind of like pushed back against stuff that Trump's doing. So even though he said I support him or endorsed him after he dropped out, it's not the same. It's not along the same lines as Vivek. So I think there's a difference there.
What'd you think about old Tim Scott there on the stage, man? I thought that, I mean, you talk about kind of a centrist if you think about it,
Yeah,
throwing his weight behind Trump.
I didn't like that. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like that. I think Tim Scott's better than that. I think it's just I honestly I just don't like I just don't like um I guess more than anything I just have a problem with, and this is for both sides of the political aisle. I just have a problem with people refusing to criticize the person that is in charge and just being a team player. It's like it's too much team playing to me. You gotta be able to criticize both sides, or when your person's doing something wrong, you gotta be able to criticize them without the risk of everybody jumping on you and just insulting you. I know politics are dirty, and I get that fact. I get it, but it's also this isn't a monarchy, right? Like the king isn't owed absolute fealty here. Like we fought a war to not provide fealty to one guy.
We'll tell that to Biden.
I mean, tell that to everybody who supports Trump. I mean, the argument goes both ways on this. That's why I said it's on both sides. I don't like it on either side. You should be free to criticize your own side just as well as you can the other side. That's always
Yeah, I
been my
agree.
problem. That's always
Hey,
been my issue.
so coming out of the AP today, I don't know if you saw that there was quite a lengthy article about how Trump and Kennedy are in some serious negotiations. I told you that this might happen last week. I said look towards Kennedy, or look towards a Democrat to try to bring in some Democratic votes.
Look, if I wanted to vote for a Democrat, I'd vote for Biden. I don't need a Democrat on the Republican ticket. I mean, it's just that
I
simple. I'm sorry.
but Will, I mean, look at it from this point of view, okay? Trump knows that he has a problem, right? He has a problem with, especially the female voter, the quote unquote soccer mom type female voter, or the young liberal female. And Kennedy brings those to his ticket. I think it would be a very smart move, even though it would probably throw a few, um, Republicans away from the vote, I think overall, I think it gives him a better edge.
But like I said, if I want,
It certainly would be interesting. It certainly would be interesting. I like I said, I'm with you. I don't want to see a Democrat on the ticket, but like I said last week, look for it. Look for a very interesting vice president pick. Now let's move on to something else that happened today that was very, 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 you know, it was going to happen. We were going to lose some troops, and this happened in North Jordan, right on the Syrian border. Lone drone attack by some what they're saying are some Iranian-backed militias.
okay.
Do you have any other?
So we woke up this morning to news. When you're like myself, you're really focused on the news. You open up, you read some news. News hasn't been good in the last 10 years, but you still got to read it. The U.S. had it's like a patrol logistics type base in southern Jordan. For people who don't know, the U.S. has bases basically everywhere. Europe, a lot of places in Africa, Middle East, some in South America. Um, a lot of them aren't very big. This one wasn't very big, um, but a lot of these bases have been attacked by what's called one-way drone attacks, suicide drone attacks. Um, the U.S. has means um, to to kind of shoot these down. It's called CRAM, but eventually things get through. They've been It's been a mix of missiles and drones, but overnight there was a one-way drone attack on a base. It is in Jordan. Jordan themselves have said it's a base in Syria, but that's merely because this is basically a secret base. It's supposed to be a secret base in Jordan, so they're not supposed to acknowledge its existence. 3 U.S. servicemen have died the first time since we pulled out of Afghanistan. Basically, 3 years that a U.S. serviceman has died in combat overseas, and at least 34 U.S. servicemen are injured. The report is basically that one of the drones that got through hit a tent that was being used as a place to temporarily house soldiers that had just come in off rotation. Um, the Biden administration has been very hesitant. They're deeming it as they don't want to escalate the situation because all of these attacks are being done by groups of militias that are openly backed by Iran. Um, the Biden administration has been not pro-Iran, but not anti-Iran either. Um, this started all the way back in the Obama administration when he wanted to normalize relations with Iran, so he lifted sanctions that the U.S. had on Iran for decades. Um, gave That's where you get the pallets of cash, um, and the Trump administration snapped those back in place. And by all accounts, in the 4 years that the Trump administration put those sanctions back in place, the Iran regime is almost on the verge of collapse, and then the Biden administration removed those sanctions, and now you have, you know, I guess a vision of weakness on the world stage of the Biden administration refusing to strike back at who is responsible for these attacks. Now you can argue that Iran didn't make the attacks themselves. That's a fair argument, but these are groups that are directly backed and funded and armed by Iran. So whether you want to agree with it or not, Iran in the end is responsible, in my opinion, for these attacks. And now we have 3 U.S. service members dead due to this.
Well, let me ask you something, Will. Here, I'm gonna put you in the big chair for a second. Here, you're sitting in the White House as you with 160 attacks on now. Granted, you've got some wounded. You got 3 killed now, but you've had wounded before this. You've had some terrible injuries to some servicemen. You got two SEALs that were probably killed.
I read
Um,
a story about that, by the way. I'll talk about that in a second. Keep
okay,
going.
let me ask you a question. You're sitting in the big chair. Go. What do you do?
Operation Praying Mantis 2.
I agree with you 100%.
Now, for everybody who doesn't understand, back in the 80s, Iran, late 80s, early 90s, Iran and Iraq were in a war in the region for about 8 years. And one of the things that they did in regards to the war against each other was they tried to destroy their ability to use natural gas and oil in the region as a funding mechanism. Both countries heavily financed their war. The U.S. was taking like a delicate balance at that time. They didn't want Iran to win, but they also didn't want Iraq to win, so they were trying to keep it balanced. Um, it all changed in 1988. Um, a U.S. warship hit an Iranian mine going through the Persian Gulf. Uh, Almost lost the ship. I don't believe we lost any sailors on that attack, but a lot were
I think
wounded.
there was I think there were three fatalities.
Okay.
If I remember, I was just reading about this the other day. And I think there were three fatalities in a Ford engine room or a Ford storage room. They were just like putting boxes up or something like that, and they just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So the original, the guided missile cruiser, the USS Samuel B. Roberts, struck a mine, but no loss of life in that one. We did lose two during the ensuing thing, and so basically, what um, what Reagan did was he created some strike groups in the area and basically gave them the mission of punching Iran in the face, but in a way where they didn't want to, but in a way where they wouldn't escalate a war on our end against us. So he just Iran was using oil platforms in the Gulf as intelligence posts. The U.S. destroyed two of those, and then they sank two Iranian frigates and multiple smaller ships. But basically, it stopped a lot of the aggression of Iran against shipping in the area. Now, when I say Operation Praying Mantis 2, what I mean by that is a controlled and measured strike to basically punch Iran in the face to stop them from doing what they're doing. Because this all comes back to Iran. And I mean, yes, it would always have the risk of escalation, but it should have never gotten to this point to begin with. So if I'm in the big chair, I'm trying to figure out how to do that, and that's where I would go.
You said you what did you say that ship's name was?
The USS Samuel B. Roberts, guided
Okay.
missile frigate.
Oh,
They
frigate.
they were
Okay.
uh they were trying
I
to
thought for
protect.
sure. Well, then, we're not going to argue about this point, but anyway, um, so you think grabbing the oil rigs is the way to go?
No, that I was describing what Operation Praying Mantis was.
Well, you're just talking about praying mantis too.
No,
I
no.
was
I
I
said what
was
I said
assuming that you're.
I said what I would do would be Operation Praying Mantis 2. Just a second one of that. What I would do is I would sink the entire Iranian Navy is what I would do.
You
Cuz
mean the four skiffs and two destroyers that they have?
it doesn't matter what they have, I would sink it. I would destroy their port facilities, sink every vessel that they have.
Right on. There you go.
We have
Um,
intelligence. We have the satellites that pinpoint these locations. We know where they're at. We could do it with standoff attack munitions like Tomahawk cruise missiles. It would be done in a couple of hours. or we could just do a couple of B2s and flatten them. Look, here's the thing: if if people who run Iran, Russia, North Korea, China, if they perceive weakness on the part of the United States or any other country in the world, they themselves do not have a problem with escalation. There was a report the other day that North Korea is planning some sort of offensive action against South Korea during this year, during this upcoming year, because the North Koreans perceive weakness. They have seen that Iran can get away with starting conflicts in the region, and nobody stands back against them. The French refused to shoot Yemen. The French refused in the airstrikes against Yemen because they didn't want to escalate. The only country that joined us in the airstrikes was Great Britain, and still it took us 2 months to get to that decision. When other countries, whether people like it or not, and I don't think it's warmongering to say this, when other people see weakness, they're going to exploit it. Other countries in the world do not have the compunction to stop doing bad things when the opportunity arises. You know, Nicolas Maduro just imprisoned his opponent in the national elections. We removed sanctions against Venezuela with the express word from Maduro that he would allow elections in the country. Now his opponent is in jail, and he's threatening to invade another country in South America. Weakness begets aggression. That's how we got to where we're at right now.
I agree. I agree. I think the time for sinking the Iranian Navy, and basically flattening wherever the Houthis are. I mean, my God, we have to know where they're shooting these missiles from,
We know everything.
and well, but we're not taking care of business. Um, I remember back to 9/11, and I remember, um, all the hullabub that happened with the election just prior to that. It was Gore and Bush, and they were counting Chads and all this kind of crap. And it came down to the Supreme Court actually, siding with Bush. And I remember on 9/11, and I remember seeing Bush come out, how strong he was. And I remember Clinton, when the USS Cole was hit, where he sent the FBI over there, and he wanted to prosecute the people. And my thought was, would I have rather have had Gore or Bush in the White House after 9/11? I mean, and I'm sound kind of the same way right now. So we have multiple attacks on U.S. forces in the Far East. Hell, even when Reagan was in, they didn't even bother to wake his ass up when Libya shot a missile at a Coast Guard station in the Gulf. They just went and shot down a couple of Libyan aircraft. So what I'm saying is that you have to be a hawk sometimes. You don't always have to be a dove when it comes to this sort of thing.
So I guess that goes back to my main like underlying cause of all this. A lot of people, a lot of people around the world like to criticize the U.S. for being everywhere and doing everything. But here's the thing: it goes all the way back to World War II, right? We made conscious choices to rebuild other countries. We didn't take them over, but we also took on the mantle of being a protector of the world for what was essentially a good cause. Like we if you understand why we do what we do in the world, the underlying reasons why we do what we do is for good. Now we have a lot of people who do bad things, but we 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 ensure the safety of waterways for a good reason, and it's so that people like people around the world can get their supplies and everything. If I read just yesterday. I read that in Sudan, right? Um, there's a civil war going on in Sudan. Since the Houthis have been bombing the Red Sea, not like none of the refugees in Sudan have gotten any aid. So like there's people in the world starving around the world because ships can't go through the Red Sea. Now that's not good anymore, and we need to reopen that because companies are not shipping through there anymore because one little section of one country is shooting rockets. We need to become a global force of good again. And I don't know the steps to take to do that. I don't know where we have to like fall back and restart that and get that image back up, but we need to do it somehow. And we need to get back to our allies helping us out and to keeping the waterways around the world because I don't know if people understand this. I don't know if people. Hello? Okay. I don't know if people like grasp how we do things in the world these days, but we have what's called just in time shipping, right? We have just in time, which means we schedule things for to be there just in time for them to be needed by the consumer. And when you put a kink in the shipping of everything, that's going to have effects downwind, and we're starting to see it by seeing the stories of refugees around the world not getting the supplies that they normally would get.
I was just looking up, the actual names of these groups that are causing the conflicts to our troops in Iraq, and one of them is called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, and it's a direct Iran-based organization ran by Iranians in Iran and in Iraq, and they have direct money ties, and they talk about it in the article on the New York Times that they actually have um, the intelligence to show the money transfers between Iran and these groups in Iraq. And let's just say it. I mean, Iraq pretty much is Iran East, like East St. Louis. It'd be East Iran.
I mean, like I said, it's obvious who's supporting or who's funding all these people. Um, it's not it's not a it's not a secret if you actually like have a couple of brain cells to rub together of who the bad actors are in the world. And the only thing I'm going to say is we should not encourage the bad actors in the world to be the bad actors, to escalate all of that stuff. We need, I mean, look, I don't want war. I don't want people dying in war. I get it. And I get the hesitance to do stuff like that. But when you don't, when you don't punch these people in the face, this is where we're at. People are dying today because of decisions we made years ago or months ago to not confront these problems head on. And it's only going to get worse until we actually until our leaders around the world who want to be for the good actually stand up and recognize it and take steps to correct the issues.
We need our leaders to be leaders. We need them to actually pull their big boy pants up and do what's necessary to prevent the America that we know, that we grew up in, from becoming a weakling, maybe the fourth or fifth superpower in the world.
You're not wrong. I mean, you know, there's just too much. There's just a lot going on, and I don't see the leadership from anywhere on any side that's gonna push back and fix what's going on. And until I Until I see that, until I see the possibility of that, I mean, you know, the report, the report just yesterday, or yeah, just came out yesterday was Trump is encouraging the GOP to turn down any and all deals with the White House of immigration because he wants to run on that in the election. Listen, you shouldn't have to run on what is a major issue in this country and stop it from being solved because you want a political win. Like there is
Yeah,
an
but
issue.
what was their their matter of solving it was uh, amnesty. Y'all can be American citizens. You didn't have to go through the process. You didn't have to do anything. Oh, you're here. You're now. You can be a citizen. I can kind of see what Trump is doing there. He doesn't. He think. Well, let me ask you this. So, say you're an immigrant from, let's say, Czechoslovakia, right? And you went through all the paperwork. You went through the years and years of back and forth through the State Department. You got probably denied 2 or 3 times, and you finally got your ticket to America. You've got your temporary visa. Then hopefully, by God, maybe someday you get a green card. Then someday, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, after 15 or 16 years, you become a U.S. citizen. How do you think they feel when people who can just walk across the southern border get a hey, you're blessed, now you're an American citizen? That's basically what some of that bill was. It was 5,000 pages long, full of bull crap, full of $1 million here and $1 million there. Do you really think anybody read 5,000 pages of a bill? I remember when bills used to be 2 or 3 pages long. It was a simple law. Now they're 5, 6,000 pages, and they want to rush it through.
Uh, look,
Well, you
look.
know,
Here's the thing. Like there's nobody between the two of us that is more acutely aware of the immigration system than me right now. Okay, you know that just as well as I do. Okay, I mean I agree that it shouldn't take it shouldn't take as long as it's taking for my stepdaughter to come to America. It really shouldn't, right? So there are plenty of people, and I agree. I think that you should follow the laws that are stipulated in this country and enter the country legally. I get it. I'm not arguing that part of it at all. What I'm arguing is that I don't think that this should be used as a political cudgel during an election season, especially when we have an inept Congress that can't do anything properly, and we have other priorities as well that need to be fixed. Look, I want three or four page bills. That's it. That's all I want. Like I am 100% there with you. I don't like 5,000 page bills that like to get rushed in overnight because nobody reads them. There's a lot of pork involved in them. For anybody who doesn't know, when you say pork when it comes to a political bill, it's money sent to useless groups that is given to a senator to buy his vote, basically. That's what that is. Okay? I don't like those. I want 3 or 4 page bills. I think it would make our country run a lot smoother, but that's a different argument. My whole point is just bringing this up is the US needs to pass some laws because we have priorities of what we need to do, right? We have priorities. And for a political leader of one party to have a report say he is telling the Republicans not to pass anything because he wants to run on that for the next 10 months tells me that now we're not going to have any laws at all for the next 10 months. That's a very wasteful amount of time when we have a Ukraine defense bill that we need to try to work out as well because you know Europe unfortunately can't do this alone. They need, we need to pass something that allows us to keep sending stuff and then putting that money back in the American economy to create jobs, which is what those bills are doing. I just have an issue with using, um, I just have an issue with basically using people's lives as a political cudgel to do that.
No, well, okay, you bring up Trump for example on that, but what about Chuck Schumer? Isn't he using lives the same way? I mean, think about this from a personal point of view. You just mentioned your your daughter, right?
Yeah.
Not being able to come over. And how long you been fighting that battle? You've been fighting that battle for a long time. It's expensive,
Uh,
isn't it?
March of last year. We've done it. We did it
Yeah.
ourselves. I mean, so there's that.
But but here's the thing. You're married to her mom.
Hmm.
She's your wife's kid.
Yep.
They have a split family there based on what the actual rules actually move on. And you get people in Congress that sit there and argue about why are you taking children away from their mother and father? Well, they're doing that same damn exact thing to you.
I don't disagree, which is why I've always said that the 80,000 IRS agents should have been 80,000 immigration agents. Like the system is screwed. We have too big of a government, and it's just I mean, there's no other way to say it. We have a large faction of people who want the government to control everything of everybody's lives. I don't agree with that. I think we need a smaller government. I'm always going to be my political affiliation is always going to be conservative. I am a small government conservative. Keep low taxes. Don't spend as much money as you spend in useless government programs. That's always going to be the way I am. Okay. On the same on the same on the same token, typically the GOP follows where I'm at. But like I said, nobody I see in the elections this coming year falls under where I sit of my principles to vote for them. So like I would rather advocate even in this small audience that I have with you guys, even there, even what we're doing right now, we're just starting small. I'd rather be the advocate for trying to fix the system than to keep perpetuating the system in its current form.
I agree with you 100% there. You know, that's why I was really kind of disappointed that Noam didn't run. You know, I mean, she's really a small government person. I mean, I was really disappointed about that. What else we got in the news? I mean, today.
Well, the what is it? The UNRWA. What's that? The United Nations. The United Nations Relief and Workers Agency. 2 days ago, there was a report out that during the October 7th terrorist attacks, I believe 6 UNRWA employees took active part in those terrorist attacks. And now you have almost every single agency or every country that has given them money stating that they will stop funding them.
Yeah,
Uh,
Japan just announced today that they were.
yeah, the only issue with this is the U.S. the U.S. ceasing funding is only going for newer projects. We're not directly cutting funding now to current projects. So their funding, I believe, runs through 2026. Um, like their funding has already been earmarked until 2026. But now you have pretty much every country that's supposed to give them money is saying they're not going to give them money anymore. Um, I believe the UNRWA in Gaza was in charge of like teachers and providing aid and funding and supplies to the population. But when a report comes out of proof that members of your organization took active part in a terrorist attack that led to the death of 1,200 innocent civilians, I believe it's the right choice to pull the funding away from there.
Yeah, I'm with you too. It kind of reminds me of that story about members of the AP that were actually tipped off in advance and embedded with some of the Hamas terrorists and actually went in on on October 7th and part of that first wave and actually just film some of the grotesque things that actually happened. I mean, have you seen some of the tapes? I mean, it's stuff you can't unsee.
I've seen a lot of the tapes. I so I think I remember texting you. I said, "Don't watch some of these tapes. You will not be able to unsee it." I think. Do you remember me texting you that?
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
said that.
I
Like I made it a mission. Like I told myself I need to watch this, because whether people want to realize it or not, we today are living history. Like we don't get our news 3 days later like we used to in the newspaper where people wrote about what happened and that's how we knew what happened. We get our news from raw video footage taken at the scene on social media. So we are living through history and seeing this stuff happen in real time. And there are times where it is not pretty to look at and is not something that we should take lightly. I don't recommend anybody listening to this to look at those tapes or those videos because there is stuff there that you will never be able to unsee in your life. It was a tragedy. Whatever your opinion on Israel and Palestine, what happened on that day and what was shown on videotape on that day is just the worst imaginable thing that can happen to you and that you can see. And I recommend everybody not watching those videos, unless you are able to kind of like unless you have the fortitude to look at that stuff and to not come away from it streaming tears down your eyes. Because like I make it a mission to watch these videos merely because I want to know what I'm talking about to the best extent possible, and to not have people like gaslight me on what did or didn't happen. So yeah, I did watch those videos, and a lot of the stuff that happened is, I don't know, it's kind of evil of what happened. So yeah.
you know, you coming from somebody who's seen evil, face first, and I've seen a few of the tapes, and I refuse to watch a lot of them, but I can tell you, that there was just no regard for human life in those. I mean, whether it was a kid that was 2 weeks old or was a lady who was 98, there was no differentiation on who they killed. And you know, I've been watching a couple things lately on the news where I think it was the interstate there in Seattle was blocked, and then the interstate in New York was blocked, and some guy finally just fed up and went out and he almost ran over somebody, but he just pulled him over, and everybody was like, "Good job." But
I'm gonna be honest. I don't like those protests. To me, don't make sense at all. Like I don't know. Like, do they just not understand who they're trying to, who they're who they're who they're marching for? Like, it takes a special kind of person to go out onto the street and protest in support of a group of people who who paraglided into a music festival that was actually uh, being supported by a group that wanted peace between Israel and Palestine. I don't think people like the undertone of that. The October 7th attack, one of the biggest places it happened was a music festival on the border between Israel and Gaza, right? That entire music festival was dedicated to peace with peace with the Palestinians in Gaza, and that's where a lot of people were massacred in that and killed on that day. And it just it's just so weird to look at protests that are supportive of people who did that act. Like you can support, you can. I don't begrudge someone for supporting, you know, the Palestinians to have their own area, to be, to be free or whatever. I get that. It's fine. You want to support that? That's fine. But you should never do it in along the lines of supporting evil people doing evil things. That's where you lose me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, uh, I saw one of these protests in. I was in Grand Rapids. I was at the Christmas festival there in Grand Rapids, and these people were laying down with sheets over their head, and they were talking about pro-Palestine and this and that, and I'm like, dude, do you not even realize that the people that were killed at the festival were your age? They were college kids. They were in their 20s, their late teens. They were you. And if you were there on that day, do you think that Hamas would have given a rat's ass that you supported Palestine? I don't think they get it. It baffles my mind.
True. For everybody in the chat who thought this would be a nice rosy sunshine chat, this is our podcast. We're not here to not make waves, I guess is the best way to say it. Just read in a news alert that came across. Evidently, Iran is raising the levels of alert through all of their air defense networks within their country. Um, I know that there's also reports of major U.S. aircraft activity over Iraq right now. Not sure where that's going to go, what that's going to lead to, but Iran is thinking maybe they might have stepped a little bit too far here. I guess if that report is accurate. So if anything happens, I'll keep you guys updated on that. I was going to tell you one thing I the um, one thing I read. We lost two Navy SEALs about a week ago. Um, during most of the global war on terror from the U.S. side, the Navy SEALs kind of stepped away from their bread and butter mission of being on the water, and really were kind of like a core in regards to the special operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so a lot of what they did were land-based missions. They didn't do as much water-based missions. And the story I read was talking about how due to the Navy SEALs like expanding their mission away from the water, the U.S. Coast Guard took a lot more of the responsibility of interdiction of pirating vessels and stuff from the Navy SEALs and started to do that themselves. The Coast Guard has vessels in hot spots around the world as well, including in the Horn of Africa and anywhere where pirates are. From what I read about the report is the Coast Guard and a Navy SEAL unit attached to them were boarding a vessel that was rumored to be carrying weapons from Iran to Yemen. And the Coast Guard, since they had more experience, uh, I guess a Navy SEAL was wanting to carry 60 pounds of communications gear and climb a ladder to do that. And the Coast Guard in charge was like, hey, dude, um, I've been doing this for about 10 years. You should probably not carry 60 pounds of communication gear when you're trying to climb this rope ladder. And I guess the Navy SEAL was like, hey, man, I'm a Navy SEAL. This is what I do. And on his way up the ladder, he tripped, he fell, um, he lost his footing. And then the second Navy SEAL that we lost basically fell in while he was trying to grab his buddy that was falling overboard. And the words of the Coast Guard guy that I read basically said, uh, as he was moving up the ladder, he lost his footing. He started to fall. His buddy reached out to grab him. He was pulled over the edge, and they both sunk like a rock. Now, I think what this shows me, um, what this shows me more than anything is the Navy SEALs need to pivot back to what makes what they were strong in. And they might have gone into this mission not understanding not understanding anymore the delicacy of boarding a ship, I guess is the best way to put it. And the hubris of that Navy SEAL is basically what got him killed in that instance. So maybe the Navy SEALs need to kind of adjust what they're doing, since now they're not going to be in Afghanistan and Iraq on the ground as much. If they're going back to interdicting ships, like what their main mission usually is, or anything in the water, then hopefully they can get back to their mission focus and kind of relearn, I guess, what they've lost.
Yeah, I think if you look at mission statements, the Marines have changed their mission statement lately to more of a light, mobile force. In fact, one of the I was looking today. There, we actually have a mini carrier and a carrier in the Gulf there. Is it the Independence that's there? And then
I'm not
we
sure.
have a marine amphibious carrier there, and so we do have some. And you know they used to carry the Harrier jump jets. Now they carry the I think the F-35, the vertical takeoff version of the F-35.
No, I think that
And
if it's a Marine detachment, they still have a squadron of Harriers.
I thought they retired all the Harriers.
No, they didn't.
I thought they went to the F-35. There's two versions. There's one that's got a vertical takeoff, and there's a version of F-35 that the Navy uses to take off of a carrier.
So in the United States Navy, we currently they're called amphibious warfare ships. But basically, what they are is they are light carriers, and they're used to send around marine expeditionary units. But those typically still have at least one marine air unit attached to them, which is usually like 6 Harriers for air support through any landing. So as far as I know, there's
I
still
just
Harriers on. We haven't
um,
retired all the Harriers. The United States Marines use Harriers.
so the F-35B Lightning is the Marine Corps variant of the Joint Strike Fighter, and it operates off the amphibious assault ship. It can take off and land like a helicopter. I'm looking to see right now whether or not the Marine Corps actually carries any Harriers anymore. Uh,
So currently, the United States Marine Corps still uses the Harrier jump jet. Okay. They currently
okay.
have, let me just double check where it is.
What version is it?
I'm trying to find it. I'm trying
Is
to
it
find
are
the
they
actual
the
version of it.
Delta version now?
So we have, where's it at? Where is it? Where's the Harrier here? Trying to find helicopter squadrons, tilter rotors, fixed wing. So we have the AV-8B Harrier too. We have 2 squadrons.
So
We have
two
the
squadrons. Yeah.
we have VMA
What I'm
223,
all I'm
VMA
looking to do.
231.
So the Marine Corps is planning on transitioning by 2026 out of the Harrier into the F-35. They currently do have two squadrons of F-35s that
We
have
have more than 2
replaced two
squadrons.
previous squadrons of the no in the Marine Corps.
No, in the
They
Marine
have
Corps
two
we have more.
squadrons in. I was just looking at
We have
okay.
we have
Well, you're probably correct there, but I'm just letting you know what I'm reading here. Is that they've replaced two Harrier squadrons so far with two F-35 squadrons. They may have some more F-35 squadrons, but I'm just looking at what they've been replacing the Harriers with.
Okay, so the United States Marine Corps currently has two squadrons of Harriers that would be a detachment on any Marine amphibious unit that is on one of the ships that they go out in. They currently have 8 F-35B squadrons for attack and 2 F-35C squadrons for attack. So
I
currently
think the
that's
F-35C is the vertical takeoff.
yes,
Am I correct?
yes.
And those are the two that replaced two of the other Harrier squadrons. So we're going to have the final two Harrier squadrons replaced by two more F-35C squadrons.
By 2030, yes.
By 20. Well, yeah, I showed 2026, but 20. You're probably right. 2030
Well,
with budget cuts.
yeah. I mean, it's not even that's not even budget cuts. That's the fact that just yesterday the United States so moving on, this is actually a good segue into what I wanted to talk about next. Um, Turkey just earlier this week, President Erdogan actually signed the ratification of Sweden joining NATO. Now, at first, I wanted to know what did we offer Turkey to get Erdogan to finally sign it, and it turns out we actually gave him 40 F-16s that are going to be
Yes.
upgraded to Block 70, which is basically the most upgraded version of the F-16. Now, if you're wondering why Turkey's not getting the F-35, we're going to have to go back into the Wayback Machine about 5 to 6 years. Turkey is a NATO ally, but they're kind of a different NATO ally in the fact that they try to be close relations to both Europe and to Russia. So they have Russian military equipment and they have NATO military equipment. Now they were going to be one of the inaugural members of the International F-35 program. Like we had planned, the U.S. is giving F-35s to other countries, right? So the F-35 is a fifth gen stealth aircraft. It's one of the best jets there are out there, right? Now, for whatever reason, and we don't for whatever reason, Erdogan must have thought that he could get away with it, but he decided that what he wanted to do was he wanted to acquire the Russian S-400 system. Now, for anybody who doesn't understand, the S-400 is the latest and most advanced Russian anti-aircraft system that they have, right? Now, the U.S. is like, hey, either you get rid of the S-400 or you get rid of the F-35. The reason why we gave them that ultimatum is you do not want your fifth gen stealth aircraft to be studied by a Russian anti-air defense system. And that's what would have happened, because what would have happened is basically we would have given them F-35s. Turkey would have had also the S-400, and they would have just used those F-35s. They would have calibrated their air defense systems to be able to understand how to detect and counter a fifth generation stealth aircraft, and they probably would have sold that information to the Russians. And so we're like, nope, you don't get the F-35. It was a big deal for a while. We finally gave them the F-16s. I guess that was what we got them in exchange for letting Sweden into NATO. But here's the kicker. This is one thing that I'm going to laugh at the Biden state administration for doing what's actually very funny. They gave the F-35 to Greece. That's who they gave the F-35 to. They gave Greece 40 F-35s. No. Here's why that's funny, guys. If you don't understand, Greece and Turkey have terrible relations. They're both NATO members, but they hate each other. They're always constantly arguing about the islands that are between Turkey and Greece. It's a constant thing.
They've
Um,
actually been to war about that,
yeah,
haven't they?
exactly. And one of the big reasons why Greece refuses to send any equipment to Ukraine um, to help them defend against the Russians is because anything sent away from Greece can would in any conflict be used against Turkey, right? If Turkey wanted to fight over another island, Greece would need all that they have. Now it's just basically a backhanded slap to Turkey that they're going to get F-16s, but Greece is going to get F-35s. So now Greece is going to have 40 F-35s, a fifth gen aircraft. And on top of that, now that they're able to get F-35s, the State Department reached an agreement with Greece that Greece will now send all of their Soviet era air defense systems to Ukraine, along with all the missiles that go with it. So now Ukraine is getting a bunch of Soviet era equipment that they know how to use. Greece sees it as obsolete for their needs. Um, I think they have a couple of Patriot batteries in the country. I'm not sure about that, but they have better stuff that this stuff is basically stuff that they can give away. They didn't want to give it away because they feared Turkey would do it, but now they're going to give it all to Ukraine.
How'd you like to be the person that invented the Patriot?
All right. Yeah, dude. Well, I wouldn't like to be him during the Gulf War, but I would like to be him now.
Yeah. Hey, let's lighten it up a little bit. Let's talk about the inductees into the Hall of Fame here.
I do have a question though. We do have a question from Lil Sheep.
Okay.
I do want to acknowledge that they've asked a couple of questions or a couple
All right.
times. Going back, my father Lil Sheep does not like that border deal. I don't really like it either, but I think that that um, refusing to get to a deal on the border is going to stop a lot of the other stuff that we need to do. So when you ask how do we feel about the border deal, neither one of us really likes it. Um, my dad is a hard no on it. Me, I want them to get to a deal so that they can start legislating other laws that need to be done to address other issues around the world and around the United States. So
I
that
think I think the simplest issue on the border is just
just
go
enforce the
guard the
laws.
border and have people go to the checkpoints. They have places that they can go to. You know, I mean, guard the border, but let them go to the checkpoints. I mean, I understand what Texas is trying to do there. I understand what Texas says. They say, don't cross here because we just can't handle the influx. Go down the road down here to 20 miles. There's a place there. Border agents are there. They'll take care of you. That's basically what they're doing. I mean, and I think that simply should be the law. That it is the law. Do it.
That's fair.
What were the other questions? Anything else?
No, no, that's okay. So we're gonna move on here. My dad and I, we both love baseball. We're gonna do a little bit of a light intermission here in the middle here. We are running against the clock, so we're gonna try to um, get a little bit more done here on the time we have. Let me turn the light on. All right, that's a little better. So last week the Baseball Hall of Fame released their results for the 2024 inductees to the Hall of Fame. Now we had, let's see, let me make sure. The 2024 Baseball Hall of Fame inductees this year will be Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, and Joe Mauer. Look, I think for a while I've had an issue with the voting for the Hall of Fame. It's a really, it's really like there's people that vote really dumb, in my opinion. Like there was a guy who actually, if anybody in here knows anything in regards to baseball, if you ever watched Ken Griffey Jr. play throughout his entire career, The guy should have been a unanimous pick for the Hall of Fame. But there was actually a guy, a baseball writer, who literally said, I will not vote for Ken Griffey Jr. because I refuse to have anybody go into the Hall of Fame as a unanimous pick. That was literally his reason for not voting for Ken Griffey Jr. Now, anybody who doesn't
Well,
know, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, basically you have to get 75% of the votes. I believe there are 249 baseball writers who are given a vote every year. You're given a ballot, and on that ballot, you're able to check off at least 10 names. There are people who don't check off any names. There are people who check off like a couple of names. Um, and so it gets it to the point where there are people who don't make the Hall of Fame but really should, because it's such a backlog, because you have 10 years to get in. If you have 10 years on the ballot to get in. And so there's a lot of people who don't get in that should, I think, in my opinion, because of so many people that are in there, and it's like a backlog of people voting.
well, I looked at the three people that were inductees this year. There was one. I think he fell five votes short that probably should have got in there.
Oh, you mean
And
Billy
what was his
Wagner?
name?
Billy
Billy
Wagner,
Wagner. Oh my
the
god.
greatest left-handed reliever in baseball history. That
Yeah,
Billy
oh my
Wagner?
god. I cannot believe he did not get five more votes. I mean, I watched this guy pitch. He was outstanding. I mean, you look at the three names that are on there now. You got Andrew and Beltre. You can't argue with that. You can't argue with a man who spent 15 years in one organization. That's unheard of, and coming out with over a 300 batting average. I mean, that's unheard of. And I mean, you can't. I mean, you can't even look. You can't even argue about Todd Helton either. All three of those are probably very honorable and very worthy members of the Hall of Fame. But there are some other people on that list. McGriff. I mean, come on. I mean, probably one of the best baseball players in the history of baseball gets left off for some reason. Is he out of years?
I think he's off. I think this might have been his last year. I think now he goes to the baseball. Uh, what is it? What's that thing? What is it called? The commission. What's it called?
The commissioner's choice or commissioner's award or something like
Some.
that.
It's like I
It's
can't
like
remember. It's like you get a.
it's like kissing your sister.
No, no. It's. I think it's afterwards. It's like 5 years, and uh, you get a vote. You get voted. You can get voted in by another commission afterwards, after you're off the ballot for like 5 more years,
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know. All I know is, I mean, you can't. How many people do you know out there played their entire career for one club? I mean,
Chipper
I mean,
Jones.
Chipper Jones, Joe Mauer. Who else? Name. Give me a couple more names.
Oh, Todd Helton. Uh, did he play? I think he played for
I think
Colorado his
Todd
whole year.
Helton. I think Todd Helton played a couple places. It
I
was
don't.
Mauer who played in Colorado for his entire 15 years.
No, Maurer was Minnesota. Helton was Colorado. Maurer was Minnesota.
Oh, that's correct. I'm sorry. They both played 15 years for their respective teams, didn't they?
Okay, I'm gonna name off three. I'm gonna name off uh two players. I'm gonna compare you to. Okay, and you tell me who you think of these two players should be inducted into the Hall of Fame first. Okay, We're gonna do
Okay.
this. All right. One MVP, six-time All-Star, three-time Gold Glove, five-time Silver Slugger, three times batting title. Career WAR, which is wins above replacement, 55.2, 6,930 at bats, 143 hits, 306 batting average, 1,018 runs, 923 RBIs, a 388 career OPP, an OPS of 827, and an OPS plus of 124. That's the first player, okay? You got that?
Okay.
Second player,
Got it.
5-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove, uh, 1 Silver Slugger, 1 Major League Player of the Year, 62.7 career WAR, 7,599 at bats, a 254 average, 434 home runs, 1,204 runs, 1,289 RBI, 152 stolen bases, an OPS of 823, and an OPS plus of 111. Which one of those two do you think deserves? I mean, they're both. I think they both deserve it, but which one do you think should be the All Star first? The first one or the
I
second
think
one?
I think the first one.
Okay, you think Joe Mauer is better than Andrew Jones?
You think?
I don't. That the first one was Joe Mauer. You think Joe
Okay.
Mauer was better than Andrew Jones?
No.
There you go. The second player was Andrew Jones, and that guy missed the All Star. One of
How many?
if not one of the best center fielders to ever play the game, defensively, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, defensively, yes.
But
I would
I
agree with
mean,
that.
443 home runs,
Yeah,
300. Like,
I mean,
I mean, you're
he brought it. He
yeah.
brought it. I got to give that to you. He brought it. He should be in there. McGriff should be in there.
All right, I'm gonna
The
be at
pitcher. What was the pitcher's name that fell 5 votes short?
Billy Wagner.
Billy Wagner. He should be in there. And I was wrong. Hilton played for Colorado for 17 years.
Yep.
Okay. Mauer played for Minnesota for 15 years. Same club. They love him there.
Oh, I don't think it's wrong to make him an all-star. I get that, but I think it just shows the flaw in voting. Like, I think it just shows the flaw in not taking votes away from the people that don't actually vote to get these people into the Hall of Fame. Yes, it is supposed to be the best players, but I just listed off Andrew Jones's achievements. He is one of the best center fielders in baseball history.
I think what they remember, and forgive me if I'm wrong here, but I think Andrew Jones had a reputation of not talking to the press.
That's true. That's fair.
And Helton and Mauer, they were very friendly to the press. So I think that plays a lot. I mean, you know, I don't think politics should be part of that equation, but if you're that way with the press, you're not going to go very far. I mean, we got a Hall of Famer right now running for Senate, right? Steve Garvey in California, you know, it took him what 5-6 ballots before he made it in. And
I guess my controversial opinion here would be to break what's happening, to break all the backlog, to break everything. Bonds, Schilling, and Sosa should all be all-stars. Because whether, like, if you want to put an asterisk next to their name, that's fine. Yeah, Hall of Famers, yeah. If you want to put an asterisk next to their name because of the generation that they were in, and obviously what they did, that's fine. But the numbers are there. And, you know, Barry Bonds was hitting home runs before he did steroids.
Well, and you got to remember the times when they were playing and using steroids, the MLB looked the other way.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because I can't remember what the controversy was that actually brought about the steroid thing, but I want to say it was that one wrestler that died of a cerebral hemorrhage. He went back, laid down, died, and I think that really brought steroids to the front foot, and I think it just became, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. But when those guys were hitting, when those guys were playing ball, everybody was juicing. Well, not Tony Gwynn. I mean, I love Tony Gwynn too. I mean, I got to tell you something. I remember watching Tony Gwynn practice in Vegas one time. They had the San Diego affiliate, the AAA club there in San Diego. I remember Tony Gwynn. I don't know, he was playing or he was goofing off there. But I mean, he would say, "I'm gonna hit it for right field." He'd hit it to right field. I'm gonna hit it to left field. I'm gonna hit it left. He hit it to left field. I mean, the guy could place the ball wherever you want. I would argue, just between me and you here, I would argue that Tony Gwynn's probably the one, if not the best, pure hitter that has ever played Major League Baseball.
I wouldn't.
I
I wouldn't
know
argue
you like
against that.
others. What?
I wouldn't argue against that. Like when you're looking at pure hitters, like you're taking into effect everything on that. If we look at his career, Tony
380
Gwynn.
something?
Tony Gwynn struck out a total of how many times? Where is it? He didn't strike out very often.
Mm-mm.
Where's his strikeouts? Tony Gwynn in his career struck out a total of 434 times in 20 years.
Yeah.
And he had a career batting average of 338. He had 9,288 at-bats and only 434 strikeouts. You have people these days, they don't care as much about strikeouts. You have people these days that are actually striking out like 500 times in a year. And because they can hit 25 or 30 home runs, they're considered success. People have to remember that baseball is a sport that you can only succeed 25% of the time and still be considered a successful player.
Oh yeah.
So like in basketball, if you're not shooting above 70%, you could be a failure, right? But baseball is is the one like in that's like a pure sport in it is so easy to fail, but even if you're failing, you're a success. Like it's really weird that way.
I think you look at it from this point. I mean, it's like you can't fake it baseball. I mean, when that curveball comes in at 92 miles an hour, you either can hit it or you can't. Right?
Yep.
But someone like Tony Gwynn, someone like Andrew Jones, someone like Chipper Jones, someone like some of the older guys, they could hit the ball. They could hit that curveball coming in at 92 miles an hour, put it into left field, put it into right field, put it into center field. McGriff could do the same thing. What was McGriff? He was in the 280s or 290s for his career, wasn't he? I mean,
I can see that. Let me just look up real quick.
Okay. I mean, I think in baseball's to me, I love going to see baseball. I love seeing AAA. I got to tell you, if I remember going to a AAA game in Toledo Mud Hens, real team. I mean, you hear about it on MASH all the time. And I'm looking over, and guess who's sitting next to me? Mr. Big Nose himself sitting right next to me. He was the owner of the club, but he's sitting next to me. I just got box seats for some reason.
Oh, Jamie Farr?
Jamie Farr, he owned the Toledo Mud Hens for several years. He used to wear that hat during MASH, but I remember hitting when I travel for my work. I'm a nurse practitioner. I do VA disability physicals during the summer, spring. If there is a minor league club in town, I am going to the game. I will take off time to go see a game. If there's a minor league hockey game, I'll go see that. There's a D-League NBA team because some of those guys are guys that you're going to see down the road. I love minor league baseball. Will, I used to take you to the Tacoma Rainiers every once in a while. You remember that?
No, it was the Albany Polecats.
Well, Albany Polecats, but when we were living there in Ocean Shores, we would go up and see Tacoma Rainiers a couple times.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember the Albany Polecats too, and a couple of those guys made the show.
Oh yeah. All right. So
What was
now that
McGriff's average?
284. He had a career average of
284.
284.
You know what? That's 28% of the time, but that's a success.
And
How
he
many
was
years did he play?
seven shy of 500 home runs.
There you go. There
He
you go.
played
Hall of Fame material.
he played for 19 years.
I don't think the reporters liked him because he would tell them how it was.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He played for quite a few teams. He played for Atlanta for a while. He was there with the 95 World Series.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. At least got a ring, right?
That's true. He got a ring.
Yep.
All right. So we have one more subject we're going to talk about today, really quick. Very interesting things have happened in Ukraine. We were talking about the Patriot earlier, right? Um, Ukraine is somehow now Ukraine has, I believe, 3 Patriot systems. Two are American. One is from Germany, and they're supposed to get a second one from Germany here this year, I believe. The German system for Patriot is actually a mobile system. It's designed to be placed on an 8x8 chassis truck, um, and be able to move around a lot quicker than the American systems. The Americans are more stationary, but after they reportedly received the German system, a couple of weird things happened. Uh, One of the things that Russia does before they launch missile attacks against Ukraine is they put what's called an A-50 airborne radar system up in the air, basically to map out the terrain that they're going to launch missiles at. Um, Basically, what these do is they they feed on electronic signals, and it gives them a clear picture of their target area, right? Like if you're trying to find an aircraft carrier, the radars of the air, right? You would know where they're at. Now, this aircraft would typically fly over the Black Sea, near just probably about 30 kilometers from the front line, because they felt safe enough that the Ukrainians did not have a system that could touch them. About 2 weeks ago, we got a report that uh, an A-50 radar aircraft and one of their Illusion intelligence command and control aircraft had had been hit. Now the A-50 was shot out of the air, and the Illusion command aircraft was damaged and able to make it back to Russia. Now, what makes this an interesting thing is the Ukrainians don't have a domestic system that can reach to where they're at. And to reach where that aircraft was, the Ukrainians would need their system to be pretty close to the front lines. Now, the Patriot system, I believe, has a range of 140 kilometers. I think that's the PAC-2 range, which is what the Ukrainians are given. The prevailing wisdom is either one, friendly fire by the Russians, or two, the Ukrainians moved their German system close to the battlefield, really close to the battlefield, because basically they knew that the A-50 was there because NATO flies radar aircraft around out in NATO airspace to basically give Ukrainians a clear picture of the air war. So they knew that the A-50 was there. Now, the second theory is that the Ukrainians moved the German Patriot system, which is more mobile, to an area where they could actually target and down these aircraft. Now, from my understanding, we don't know for sure what happened, but the Russians now, their A-50s are flying over the Caspian Sea and over Russian territory. They're no longer flying over the Black Sea. So either they fear the Ukrainians, or they fear their own troops not being smart enough to know how to properly use their air defense systems.
The classic Tom Clancy Red Storm Rising move.
Right? Now that's
Yeah.
now the second half of what happened was an Illusion, an Illusion. I say Illusion. It's an IL-72. Is one of Russia's uh, strategic airlift aircraft. Now, that was actually shot down, and that was Belarus, I believe. So that's to the north. So that was actually shot down as well. So either the Russian air defense is extremely incompetent in what they do, they don't inform their air defense that they're going to be flying in that area, or the Ukrainians are somehow using their third Patriot system as like a shoot and scoot system to ambush Russian aircraft. I don't know what's going on. It's very interesting to read about this stuff. There's a lot of theories out there on what's going on, but I really thought that was very interesting uh, to hear in the news the other day. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a smart move. I mean, um, I think the shoot and scoot is more plausible. I have a feeling that, let's say that first bird was shot down by Russian Sam. I think that they would immediately have orders coming down the chain of command saying anything above this level here, do not shoot at. Um, I guess I got a question for you. Are the Ukrainians even in the Air Force business anymore? Or do they have any birds?
Oh yeah. So basically, in February of 2022, when Russia invaded the country, they knew the Ukrainians knew about the invasion. Um, like a month in advance. U.S. and European intelligence warned them of what was going to happen. We all knew that. I mean, if you're at least moderately intelligent around that time and you're following the news, like you can see that something was going to happen. So basically, what the Ukrainians did was um, they have MiG 29s and Su 31s, and then Su 24s are their ground attack, and they have no Su 25s and Su 24s. So they have a lot of old Soviet aircraft, but they had at the time of the war starting, they had about 100 and no, about 239 aircraft in their inventory. What they did was they actually um, they sent most of their aircraft to smaller airfields and and to roadways, and so a lot of their aircraft escaped the initial attack, and they're still flying today. They're actually in the process of training on F-16s right now. I think they are currently slated by the end of this year to get at least 80 F-16s, the Block 3040 versions of them.
That might make a difference, huh?
Yeah, I think it will. I don't think it's a game changer in the overall picture, but it's certainly something that can help air defense wise and air patrol. But yeah, the Ukrainian Air Force still has aircraft flying combat missions right now. Um, but no, they're not. It's not like they're not shooting. They're not really dogfights as much as just protecting against cruise and ballistic missiles coming in and drones. It's not. It's not. So all those stories that you read of like traditional warfare in the modern world, dogfights and tank on tank combat, that stuff's not really happening in Ukraine. What's happening in Ukraine is uh, IFVs and tanks are being used as support units, and infantry has an abundance of anti-tank rockets, and that's how you're losing all of the tanks that you're seeing being lost. So it's not typically tank on tank warfare or dogfights in the air.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of experience with anti-tank missile systems, and I mean, you just some of these newer anti-tank where they're look down weapons, where they actually come down from the top of the. You can't. There's nothing you can do about that. I mean, this is my computer is better than your computer. You know, let me piss on a spark plug, maybe. I don't know,
Well, I mean
but
that's the entire design of the Patriot system. The Patriot system's not designed to go after the aircraft. It's designed to go after the cockpit and kill the pilot more than anything. That's its
yeah,
design.
I agree.
That's what it aims at. Like people like when you the destruction of the aircraft is a secondary feature of the Patriot missile system. You're trying to kill the pilot more than anything because you can replace an aircraft, but it's hard to replace a seasoned veteran in combat as a pilot.
Takes a couple years of training at least.
Yep, and millions of dollars of training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it's been great talking to you today, Will. It looks like Super Bowl is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions.
right now, Detroit is up 24-7.
Yeah,
I
24-10.
24-10.
24-10.
Oh, San
Yeah.
Francisco got a field goal to end the half.
Yeah, it's they got 8 minutes left in the third quarter, but it looks like that's what we're going to see. So,
I wanted Baltimore and Detroit, but I'll take Kansas City and Detroit. I'll take a Swifty Super Bowl.
yeah, I kind of, I'm more, I was thinking about that just a little while ago. I mean, for all this crap going on about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and stuff like that, the thing is, she's kind of giving a boost to the NFL a little bit. I think
that's true. Like you're there. That has been something that people have talked about, like the Taylor Swift effect. They're talking about how people who had never watched NFL are like, hey, it's Taylor Swift. I'm gonna watch a game. I mean, if you wanna date Taylor Swift, date Taylor Swift. I don't care. Like, I'd rather be Jason Kelsey myself. Chucking a beer and doing a Van Wilder out of the box window. That's more what I would like to do.
That was pretty good.
But
that's pretty good.
That's kind of what I would rather do. But more power to Travis Kelce.
More power to him.
More power.
All right, buddy.
All right, guys.
Great talking to you.
Thank you guys, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate all the questions.
Thank you.
Everybody hanging out. I love that you guys give us a chance. We will be back next weekend, next Sunday. This is going to be something that we're going to do every Sunday going forward as much as we can. If there's any cancellations, we'll let you know. Like I want to say every time of the podcast, thank you for being respectful. I know that some of you probably don't agree with what we're saying. That's okay. This is just a podcast of our opinions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to message me on Twitch or follow the YouTube that I gave you. I'm always open for debate, always open for differing opinions. So thank you guys, everybody. We will see you guys later. Have a great night. Enjoy the week. Be safe. See you guys later. Peace out.
Rock and roll. Hoochie-coo. Are we out? How'd that go, you think? Yeah. All right. Okay, good. Well, I'm gonna go grocery shopping. I'm down here in Georgia. I have I'm in northern Georgia. I've never really spent much time up here in northern Georgia. I think Krista lives somewhere around here. I don't know. I won't reach out to her. Yeah, I do. I love you, man. All right. Take it easy. Bye.